Yeah, good afternoon, students. We'll start with the module 2 here, right? So here, my dear students, module 2 is a bit big. Okay, so it may take another few more classes for me to complete module 2. So after this human resource planning, we'll be dealing with the job evaluation, and then we'll be looking out to recruitment, selection, and then we'll be looking out to training and learning. Okay, so it will take another few classes for me to end this module 2. Okay, so I'm going a bit slow here so that you can understand the concepts, right? Am I audible, students? Am I
Yes,
audible?
ma'am.
Or right. Okay. So here we had seen in the last class the techniques to deal with imbalance in labor supply. Okay, while planning for human resource, if there is any imbalance, in spite of all the planning, if there is any imbalance, how can you go ahead with the filling those vacancies, or how can you go ahead with the surplus of the labor which you have in hand? What techniques the organizations follow that I have already taught here. Okay, then moving on to challenges for HR planning, right? So here, first challenge for HR planning, human resource planning is continuing competitive pressure to develop new or different markets, products, and services. As we all know, change is inevitable. Okay, so changes have to be implemented in the organization for the organization to grow and sustain in the market. Okay, so here a lot of uh, changes do happen. Competitive pressure is being built. You need to be best in the market, you need to be best in the competition. Okay, so you need your employees to be very innovative, you need your employees to be very inventive, creative. Okay, you need to have competent manpower in your hand. Okay, and you should see to it that the production also is not stopped. Okay, as well as the services also are very creative, very innovative. Okay, so all these build in a lot of competitive pressure. Okay, on human resource planning. So when you're planning for human resource, you have to see to it that you have to match the strategies of the organization, whatever are there. The human resource requirement, whatever is there, is fulfilled in time, in the right time. Okay, with the right competence, that is very much required. So that it becomes the biggest challenge for HR planning. Okay, as in this world there are many companies being coming in, a lot of globalization. We have a number of companies coming into India, Indian companies going outside. Okay, so like this, what happens is, due to globalization and all those things, right? Lot of competition is being built in. Okay, apart from that, there is a lot of labor turnover. People will leave one organization, jump to another organization. Job hopping will be there, right? So taking all this into consideration, there is a biggest challenge on human resource planning to keep consistent manpower in the organization, a consistent number of manpower in the organization, as well as competent manpower in the organization to meet the strategical requirements, whatever the organization plans for. Okay. Apart from that, the second challenge is greater demand for better services at lower cost. Okay. So here, because of the competition, basically the services which are being provided, it may be at the lower cost. Okay, for the customers or consumers. Okay, so here you need to see to it that you provide the best services in hand. For that, you need to have best competent people who have creative ways or innovative ways through which, wherein they decrease the cost, as well as bring in to the lower cost of services, right? Then introduction of new technologies. Obviously, every now and then new technologies are coming in. Okay, so because of the inventions and innovations of new technologies, it poses a lot of challenge for HR planning, wherein new skills are required, or whatever skills are to be there should be acquired by the existing human resource. Okay, then restructuring and relocations. Okay, so here a lot of restructuring, relocation, and all those things will be happening in the organization. So you have to cope up with the changes which happen in the organization, as well as you have to make your employees ready for the change which happens in the organization. Okay, then changes in work systems and methods. As I said, changes in work systems and methods, it brings in a lot of pressure on human resource. So you should see to it that you retain the human resource in the organization. Apart from that, changing attitude among various groups in the workforce due to unions, or maybe due to external political pressures, or maybe due to certain legal or maybe due to certain laws which have changed. Okay, it brings in a lot of change in attitude of the employees. Okay, it doesn't mean that every time the attitude of the employees will remain the same, or every time it will remain positive, right? So there might be certain times the negative attitude of the employees also may arise. So you have to cope up with that negative attitude and see to it that you plan the human resource in such a way that the negative attitude is curbed and you bring in the positive attitude in the workforce, right? Then resistance from employee and employer. Certain times the grievances will be there. Certain times there will be a lot of needs, or needs to be fulfilled for the employees. Okay, certain times employer may not be in a position to fulfill all the needs of the employees, or maybe some needs of the employees, or employee may not be in a position to give in the production which is required if the higher target is set. So lot of resistance will be coming from employer and employee also. Okay, so you should see to it that you plan the HR in such a way that the employer also is satisfied as well as the employee also is satisfied. So these are the biggest challenges for HR planning, human resource planning. Okay, now moving on to job evaluation, that is the third content in your second module. Okay, now what exactly is the job evaluation? Okay, so Wendell French, okay, defined a job evaluation as a process of determining the relative worth of various jobs. Okay, so you will be having various jobs in your organization, a process of determining the relative worth of each and every job within the organization, so that different wages may be paid to the jobs of different worth. Okay, so here basically this job evaluation is majorly used when it comes to fixation of compensation to the employees. Okay, so that time they identify the worth of that particular job in that particular organization, and based on that they fix the compensation which should be given to that particular job holder. Okay, then job evaluation basically is a process of determining relative worth of the job, ranking the job and grading them by comparing the duties, responsibilities, requirements like skill, knowledge of the job. So how are you going to rate, or how are you going to rank, or how are you going to identify the worth of those jobs? By comparing the duties and responsibilities and requirements of that particular job, as requirements such as knowledge, skill, ability, experience of required for that particular job. Okay, you compare it with the other jobs. Okay, and then you fix the compensation payable to the concerned job holder. Okay, so that is what we speak about job evaluation. Okay, moving on to objectives of job evaluation, right? So first objective of job evaluation is to gather data and information relating to job description, job specification, and employee specification for various jobs in the organization. Okay, so here uh, what is the main objective of job evaluation? It is first to gather information and data. Okay, to relating to description of the job, specification of the job, as well as the employee specification. Okay, for various jobs in the organization. Fine. Then second objective is to compare the duties, responsibilities, and demands of the job with that of the other jobs. So here how much demanding that particular job is when compared to other jobs, what is the duties and responsibilities of that particular job when compared to other jobs. That is the second objective of job evaluation. And then finally determine the hierarchy and place various jobs in the organization. Okay, so what you do is you categorize the jobs, you place it into various levels: top level, middle level, and lower level. Okay, so then afterwards to determine the rank or grades of those jobs. Okay, certain organizations go in for determining the rank, certain organizations, basically government organizations, they go in for uh, grading the jobs. Okay, grade 1 employee, grade 2 employee, grade A employee, grade B employee, like that. Okay, then ensure fair and equitable wages to be given on the basis of relative worth or value of that particular job. Okay, so this is the next objective of your job evaluation. See to it that you ensure you pay fair and equitable wages on the basis of the worth or value of that particular job. Okay, in other words, equal wages are fixed to the jobs of equal worth or value. Okay, apart from that, minimize wage discrimination. Now that is basic objective of job evaluation, which minimizes the wage discrimination based on gender, age, caste, religion, and region. Okay, so here my dear students, whenever the compensation is being fixed for the employees in the organization, there is a set of work which is being done. Okay, and that is called as job evaluation. Simply you cannot go in for fixing the compensation for the employees in the organization. Okay, so there will be a salary chart or wage chart which is being prepared by HR department. Okay, so anyone comes on that particular job, okay, the basic wage or DA will be same. Okay, apart from that, the basic and DA changes based on the experience of that particular candidate or qualification of that particular candidate. Okay, now principles of job evaluation on which the job evaluation works. First principle is rate the job but not the employee. Okay, rate the elements on the basis of the job demand. Now, by job evaluation, you determine the relative worth of that particular job, not worth of the candidate in that particular job. Okay, so you are just going to identify the worth of that particular job, value of that particular job in the organization when compared to other jobs. Okay, and based on that you are going to rate or rank and you are going to fix one particular compensation. Fine, so that is the minimum compensation which should be paid for that particular job. Okay, so here, if for example, if I am recruiting a particular person on a particular job, okay, and I have already done job evaluation for that particular job, for say XYZ job, I have done job evaluation for that XYZ job and I have said that 5,000 is a basic which is to be paid for that particular job. This is the relative worth of that particular job. Now, I say that the minimum qualification or minimum thing which is required is 2 years of experience for that particular job with BCom qualification. So 5,000 basic should be paid. Okay. This I have drawn through job evaluation. There are certain methods I'll be showing you next in the next slides. Through those methods, I have understood that a person with the experience of 2 years and with the BCom degree can be hired on this particular job and you can fix 5,000 basic for that particular job. Okay. Now, if I hire a person of 5 years experience with BCom degree, then I cannot give 5,000 salary to that particular person. I have to give bit higher salary, that is 6,000 rupees salary for that particular person. So in this way, what happens is the job evaluation chart is being drawn. Okay, so through job evaluation what you are going to get is minimum salary which should be given for that particular job or minimum wage which should be fixed for that particular job. Okay, now again, how much you are going to fix the compensation, salary or wages, whatever it is, it depends on the person who you are hiring on that particular job. Okay, so job evaluation is nothing but you rate the job but not the employee on the job. Right, the elements selected for rating should be easily understood. Okay, so whatever elements you are selecting for rating, okay, it may be the experience, it may be the qualification, it may be the process of that particular job, it may be the hazardous or dangerous things, uh, processes which are there in that particular job. Okay, everything are to be identified and based on that you should rate and it should be easily understood. Okay, so elements should be defined clearly and should be properly selected. You simply cannot go and like a Tom Dick Harry, you cannot go and just select some of the elements and then fix the compensation. No, it should be defined clearly and properly selected. There should be a proper format for that. That is one of the principle of job evaluation. Then employees concerned and the supervisor should be educated and convinced about the program. Okay, so employees who are concerned to that particular job and the supervisor should be educated and convinced about whatever salary is being fixed for them. Okay, it should be crystal clear. Supervisors should be encouraged to participate in the rating of the job. Then secure employee cooperation by encouraging them to participate in the rating program. Okay, as well discuss with the supervisors and employees about the ratings, but not as about assigning money values to the points. Okay, so here you can just have a discussion with the supervisors and employees about rating that particular job or finding the relative worth of that particular job. Okay, but you cannot have a discussion about the money value assigned to those points. Okay, do not establish too many occupational wages, right? So certain times what you can do is 2 3 jobs together you can club it and make it as one job. Okay, so like this, these are the various principles of job evaluation, right? Now procedure for job evaluation. First procedure for job evaluation is identification of the jobs for evaluation. You cannot go in for job evaluation for all the jobs in the organization. You have to fix or understand which are the key jobs in your organization. Okay, and based on that you are going to evaluate those jobs. Okay, then gathering the relevant data. After you identify the job for evaluation, you are gather relevant data for evaluating that particular job. Then after that, determining the job ranks, okay, selecting of benchmark jobs, right? And then wage and salary survey you have to do, and then review, and you have to give a feedback. That is nothing but procedure of job evaluation. Now moving on to methods of job evaluation, my dear students, this is very important. Okay, so you have two types of method. One is quantitative method and one is non-quantitative method. Quantitative method is analytical, non-quantitative method is non-analytical. So here in quantitative method, you have certain calculations, where in non-quantitative method, you need not have calculations. It is just based on certain theories, right? So one by one, we'll see what it is. Point rating method, which is one of the quantitative method. It was introduced by Merrill Lott. Okay, so a set of compensable factors are identified as determining the worth of the job. So you are going to identify certain compensable factors which are really worth of that particular job, which will tell the worth of that particular job. So here compensable factors are skill. Okay, first one is skill. In skill, you identify the experience, education, and ability required to do the particular job. Then the second factor is responsibility. Okay, monetary responsibility and the supervisory responsibility. Does the job have monetary responsibility or does it have supervisory responsibility? Then you have, third factor is efforts. Okay, so here mental efforts are involved or physical efforts are involved, right? Then working conditions, okay, location of the working, okay, hazards which are required, which are there in that particular work, okay, extremes in environment which are there in that particular work, that is being identified, right? So here what you are going to do is first you are going to identify the factors, okay, skill, responsibility, effort, working condition. Okay, after determining the critical factors, you determine the level of those factors, allocate points to the factors, okay, then allocate points to the levels, develop point manual, apply point system, and apply money value. Okay, so here for example, if I say skill, it is a key factor. Okay, so education and training required, right? Breadth and depth of experience required, social skills required, problem solving skills required, discretion, degree of discretion, use of judgment, creative thinking, all these are points related to skills, right? Responsibility, we have already seen breadth of responsibility, specialized responsibility, complexity of work, degree of freedom to act, number of and nature of subordinate staff, extent of accountability for equipment or plant, extent of accountability for product or material. That is responsibility and accountability. Efforts, mental demands of the job, that is and physical demands of the job, and degree of potential stress involved in that particular job. Okay, so here educational requirement, that is sub factor under the skill, key factor may be expressed as in the order of importance. Okay, so here you have to identify the degree and define. Fine. So here degree is 1, 2, 3. So here define able to carry out simple calculations, high school education. So here what you are going to do is whatever key factors are there. Okay, that is skill. In that skill you have education. So in that education you have to go in for degree and defining that particular degree. So at what degree they are required. Okay, so here assigning point values to the degrees after fixation of relative value of the key factors. For example, if I take this handles, mates, develop contacts, take initiative, so at the third degree the education requirement is there, then you assign the point value for that. Okay, so here for example, the same thing is being taken here, factor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that is skill. Okay, then other factors whatever are there, right? And then finally you allocate the point value for those skills and all. So maximum point total points of all factors depending on their importance to the job is 540. Okay, so here if you could total all this, it comes to 540. Then afterwards you go in for conversion of job grading points into money value. Okay, so here point range from 500 to 600. Okay, daily wage 300 to 400. Okay, that is grade 1 officer. Fine. So here if you could see 540, right? So 500 to 600 point is it ranges into this particular point. So here 300 to 400 daily wages is being fixed. Okay, rate 1, that is officer grade. Right. So this is how the point rating system is being put forth. Okay, then advantages and disadvantages of this system. One is it is accurate method for job evaluation, very accurate, because you are going to identify the elements, then fix the degree to the elements, understand the level of those elements, fix the points to the elements, and then go in for fixing the pay for those elements, right? Then afterwards, second advantages cannot be manipulated. Okay, there is nothing called as manipulation because you are in depth understanding each and every element of that particular job, and scales can be used for long period of time. Okay, so that is what we could say the advantages. But then afterwards, jobs can be easily placed in distinct categories. Fine, that is the advantage. Moving on to disadvantages, it is very time consuming because it is a very lengthy process, and it is very expensive because it requires a lot of time and cost. Okay, difficult to understand. Okay, it's not so easy to understand. Only an expert can do this. Then a lot of clerical work is involved in this, a lot of paperwork is involved in this, and it is not suitable for managerial jobs because you cannot judge the limits of the managerial jobs because it is unlimited. Fine. So that's what we say advantages and disadvantages of job evaluation point rating method. Right. Moving on to second method, that is factor comparison method. Okay. This method is based on point rating and ranking. So here again the set of compensable factors, that is skill, responsibility, efforts, and working conditions are taken into consideration. Okay. So here the factors are identified and determine the worth of the jobs. Okay. So typically number of compensable factors is small, 4 or 5. Apart from that, if you could see the steps involved in factor comparison method, first step is it determines compensable factors, determines key jobs, then allocation present wages for key jobs. So you're going to identify the compensable factors first, then afterwards identify the key jobs, then allocate present wages for key jobs and place key jobs on factor comparison method, evaluate other jobs. Okay. So here you will be comparing one job with the other job. That is factor comparison method. So selecting the key jobs, say 15 to 20, you have selected key jobs, which are representing wage and salary levels across the organization. Selected jobs must be represented as many departments as possible. Okay. So selected jobs, you have to pick in from all the departments, right? Then find the factors in terms of which the jobs are evaluated. Fine. So in these selected jobs, you're going to find the factors like skill, efforts, responsibility, working conditions, and all those things. Then rank the selected jobs under each factor. Okay, by each and every member of the job evaluation committee independently. Fine. And then assign money value to each factor and determine the wage rates for each key jobs, right? The wage rates for jobs is apportionate along the identified factors. Okay. Then afterwards here, all the jobs are compared with the list of key jobs and wage rates are determined. Okay. So this is how the factor comparison method is being made. Advantages of this method, it is more objective, very objective, right? Because it is identifying the key jobs, so it relates to the strategy of the organization, and it is very objective. Okay, it is not subjective, right? Apart from that, flexible, as no upper limit of rating is there, less chance of overlapping and overweighting will be there, right? Disadvantages, again very expensive, time consuming, then using same factors again as a point rating method and very difficult to understand again, right? So this is the advantages and disadvantages. Now third one, which is qualitative, that is ranking method. Okay, so as its name implies, this method basically ranks the jobs in the organization from highest rank to the lowest rank. So it is the simplest of job evaluation method, very simple to understand, very simple to be made. Okay, so another advantage of that is it is usually takes less time and is less expensive, right? So that is the advantage. So advantages here are very simple, very easy to communicate the results to the employees. It is easy to understand. Disadvantages, ranking job is very subjective, right? It depends on the opinion of the experts, right? It doesn't depend on any calculations or something like that. It is not subjective, right? So ranking job is very subjective. Okay, it is not objective. So values and complexities are often assessed on the basis of opinions. And when creating a new job, existing job must be re-ranked again to accommodate the new position, right? So that's what is, because ranking method, it compares all the jobs and then ranks. Okay. So here, if you have some new job coming in, again, you have to re-rank all the other jobs, right? So table of array of jobs according to the ranking method. So here, rank one, accountant, monthly salary 3,000. Okay, just an example is being given here. Accounts clerk 1,800, purchase assistant 1,700, and so on. Okay, so you are just going to rank the jobs based on the descriptions, right? Then you have the second method of quantitative method, that is job classification. Okay, so this method was popular in US Civil Service Commission. Okay, so job grades are determined on the basis of job analysis and job description. So here, based on the job analysis, you are going to grade the jobs. Okay, as well as classes are being established by the authorized body or committee appointed for the same, and discussion with the employees, right? Then steps in job classification: with the help of job analysis, prepare job description, classify number of jobs. Okay, select the key jobs, discuss with employees regarding number of grade and grade description, then grading the jobs, assigning money value to each grade or key grades first and then to all other grades. Okay, so here class 1, if you could see here the grades, as I said, class 1 is an executive grade, which is further classified under this category, maybe officer, manager, or deputy office manager, office superintendent, departmental supervisor, etc. Class 2 are skilled workers. So under this category, maybe purchasing assistant, cashier, receipts clerk, etc. Class 3 grade will be semi-skilled workers like machine operators, stenotypists, switchboard operators, etc. Class 4 will be semi-skilled workers again, like file clerks, office boys, and all those things, right? So like this, the grades are being identified. Okay, advantage of this particular method: it is very simple, very easy to operate and understand, very economical, doesn't involve too much of cost, and very suitable for small organizations, as well as pay determines problems easy, right? Useful for government jobs. So basically most of the government jobs, they classify the jobs in this particular grades. Then disadvantages: it suffers from personal bias. Grading entirely is based on the opinion of the experts, so personal bias will be there. Rarely used in industries. Okay, so it is only used in the government sectors, but it is not used into private sectors, and can rarely compare the job rank with the man of on the job. Okay, then problems of job evaluation. Okay, so here when it comes to problems of job evaluation, certain methods are scientific, certain methods may not be scientific. That is one of the problem or issue of job evaluation. Certain methods are very difficult to understand. Okay, then wide fluctuation in compensable factors. Okay, based on different methods, there will be wide fluctuation in compensable factors. So employees, trade unions, leaders, that programs operators have different view in selecting compensable factors. Okay, so here if you are going to take opinion of everyone, they have their own different views. Based on that, what happens is probably it becomes very difficult to give in the compensable factors or giving weight for those compensable factors. Again, there will be a lot of human errors. Then results may not exactly coincide with social evaluation, leading to employee dissatisfaction. Okay, then government policies may be dominated by job evaluation. Okay, government policies or labor laws may say that you have to give this much of basic wage, which again, it just goes in for disturbance in job evaluation. Okay, job evaluation once structured may not be useful for the next time. Okay, so these are all the problems of job evaluation, right? Then coming on to the fourth content, and that fourth content will be having recruitment and selection. Then importance of recruitment, recruitment policies, factors influencing recruitment, processes of recruitment, sources, evaluation of recruitment, and so on. Okay, let us move on to this recruitment here. So here, after completing the process of job analysis, okay. So we have already seen the job analysis. It is nothing but job description and job specification. So after completion of this job analysis, um, it which defines duties and human requirements of the company's job. Next step basically is to procure and desire and the desired human capital. So here, next step after job analysis is procure the desired human capital for the organization, which involves the processes of recruitment and selection of employees for the organization, followed by placement, induction, socialization, as well as transfers, all those things, right? So, if required, procurement of right candidate or right kind of human capital, having appropriate level of education, knowledge, skill, and professional competencies is one of the most important operative functions of HR department, because as HR department is seen as the heart of the organization. Okay, so here HR department has this more important task. Okay, to fill in the right type of candidates within the organization through this particular operative function of recruitment and selection. Okay, so recruitment basically is nothing but it is recruitment of human capital. Okay, is not just placing the advertisements or calling the consultants or employment agencies. It is much more complex exercise, right? So it involves a lot of complexities wherein we have to ensure that human capital to be recruited matches the strategic plans of the organization. Okay, so with which method of recruitment would be suitable for attracting more candidates? Okay, um, as well as attracting the desired human capital is another issue. Okay, so should the organizations go for pre-screening to reduce the number of applicants to be interviewed? Can the organization afford to pay slightly more than the ongoing rates of wages and salaries in the market, as it helps in attracting the quality human capital? What is the image of the organization in the market? All such issues affect the exercise of attracting the desired human capital. Okay, nowadays, my dear students, there is a term called as employer branding. Okay, so as for a product, you have something called as branding. You have branding for the company also. Okay, so here employer has to brand himself, right? So if I ask you, anyone would like to join Google, everyone will raise your hands, right? So if I ask you if you would like to join Satyam Computers, no one will be ready for that. Why? Because of the goodwill or brand, okay, of that particular company, Google, which has gained in the market, the brand which has been, it has built its brand in the market, right? Infosys, it has built its brand in the market. Tata's, they have built their brand in the market, right? So everyone wants to join that particular company. So that term is being called as employer branding. So that is the major function of recruitment. When it comes to recruitment, you have to build an employer brand, right? So here, if you could see, recruitment basically, it is nothing but the process by which a large number of prospective candidates. Please understand the meaning of recruitment, my dear students. Recruitment is the process by which a large number of prospective candidates are attracted by various methods to apply for the position available. Okay, recruitment is a process by which a large number of prospective candidates are attracted by various methods of recruitment to apply for the positions available. So, according to Edwin Filippo, recruitment is a process of searching for prospective candidates or prospective employees and stimulating them to apply for the jobs in the organization. Okay, please understand the definition here. Recruitment is a process of searching for the prospective candidates by the right sources and making them to apply for the job in the organization. Please understand here. Recruitment is nothing but getting in touch with the large prospective candidates and seeing to it that they apply for the job. So here, advertisements, okay, print media, so various sources of recruitment, whatever are there, should be very attractive and placed in such a way that immediately when the candidate sees the advertisement, he or she should feel to apply to that particular job. Now there the recruitment function ends, right? And then later on the selection process starts, right? So here, my dear students, recruitment is the definition. I hope the definition of the recruitment is clear. So objective of the recruitment basically is to attract large number of potential candidates for the job available. Okay, you want n number of, large number of people or large number of applicants applying for the job. For that, you need to have right recruitment process in your hand. So it is all, recruitment is basically considered to be a positive concept. So you are going to build a positive image in the candidate who is going to apply for that particular job. Through what? Through employer branding. So you brand your company, you see to it that you build the image of the company in the minds of the public, so that whenever you place an ad for the vacancy in that particular company, immediately you have competent prospective people who will be applying for the job in that particular company. Okay, so that is the major function of recruitment. Selection basically, on other hand, is often termed as negative. Okay, because it tends to eliminate the applicants. Okay, so recruitment is positive, selection is termed as negative, because you are going to eliminate the applicants. You are going to select the applicants and reject the applicants whoever are not suitable for the job. Okay, so you are going to eliminate applicants, leaving only the best to be appointed. So successful working of the organization basically depends to a greater extent on the policies of recruitment and the methods of recruitment of human capital. So recruitment becomes a very complex process in the organization. So in case only the right kind of candidate in the right number on the in the right wages and on the right condition are to be appointed, the future of the organization is likely to be bright if you have this particular aspect: right number of candidates, right wages, right conditions, and right kind of candidates. If you recruit, obviously you have bright future in the organization or bright future of the organization. So it is basically for this reason that every organization has an employment department called by different name in different organizations. Okay. So here, moving on to the next, the sources of supply of HR. Okay, you have internal sources as well as external sources. Okay, so here internal sources and external sources. There are n number of internal sources and number of external sources. Okay, before moving on to internal sources and external sources, let me speak about the policies of recruitment. Okay, so here when I speak about the organizations, every organization should have a well thought and well-laid recruitment policy. So best recruitment policy should have certain features. Now, what are those features? One is all employment activities must center in one place. Okay. In case all requisitions go through one center and all employment records are kept up to date, there is a maximum possibility for efficiency and also for the type of follow-ups which are to be made progressively, which improves the employment method. So here what happens is there should be one particular center wherein all the requisitions for manpower should come in. Okay, one particular department, right? And that particular department will be maintaining the employment records, okay, of the previous applications, whatever they have come, or how many employees they have employed. Okay, in the last classes we have seen about the yield ratio, which source yield me the best employees, okay, best candidates, right? So all these are to be calculated so that there should be one particular center. Okay, so a busy line manager normally does not have enough time and skill to perform the recruitment and selection process for himself or herself. Okay, so he can benefit by this assistance of central staff agency, right? So either they go in for one central agency, or maybe one consultant who can do this particular function for them, or either they will be having the internal people who will be looking into this particular function, who will be only concentrating on recruitment function. Okay, that is one of the policy. Then creation of new post and sanction of for appointment on the same should be authorized by competent authorities. Okay. Simply none of the departments can come and give that, okay, this is a manpower requisition. We want so much of manpower. You have to give us. No. There is a proper format, or there is a proper process through which you have to go through. You have to see to it that you prepare the job description specification and give, there will be format given by HR department. So HR department will give format to all the departments. They have to fill in whatever requirement of candidates are there. Okay, and then they have to get the approval from authority of the department. They have to get approval from CEO or competent authorities, and afterwards they have to hand it over to the HR department, and then HR department will be looking out for completion of that particular need, right? The number of selected people should not exceed the number of effective vacant positions, right? So that is one of the policy. Apart from that, job analysis should take place well before recruitment. So job analysis should be taken place well before recruitment. As I said, the department has to clearly identify the job description specification, and then they have to pass on the requisition to the HR department. Okay, so as far as possible, all candidates should be taken from one source. Okay, so all the candidates should be taken from one particular source. That is very much required. Okay, fine. And then no false information or assurance should be given at the time of selection, right? So you, whatever you tell at the time of selection, it is very very important, right? You cannot give any false assurance to the candidate. Okay, and it should be it should keep in view the public policies also. Okay, and recruitment and selection should be done only by trained and experienced and efficient staff, right? You need to have right kind of interviewer who will be doing that particular interview and looking into selecting the candidates. Okay, as well as it should clearly indicate the firm's attitude towards employment and reservation for minorities, women, physically handicapped, and so on. Now this is one of the thing which all the companies do concentrate in, my dear students, right? So here, attitude towards recruitment of the candidates who are physically handicapped, or women, or maybe minorities. Okay, so all this has to be taken into consideration. So government policies will be there. You have to see to it that you follow the government policies. Based on the government policies will be giving how much of percentage of women employees, percentage of handicapped, physically handicapped, or maybe other gender employees should be recruited. So based on those policies, the company has to set its own recruitment policy. Okay. Apart from that, it should clearly state the basis and extent of promotion from within the organization, right? Then it should attach due importance to audit and research on many matters like recruitment ratio as the number of actual people hired per 100 applicants in the firm, as well as the other firms. Okay, so here the yield ratio should be calculated and the record should be kept in the organization, right, or HR department. So these are the various policies of recruitment which are to be followed. Now moving on to the sources of recruitment, you have internal sources and external sources. So internal sources, it is not always possible to rely basically on external sources to fill the HR requirement. Okay, so certain jobs are similar from one organization to another, but most jobs require specialized knowledge that can be obtained only within a particular organization. So even those jobs which do not appear to be unique require familiarity with the procedures, policies, people, and also look into the special features of the organization in which they are performed. Therefore, internal source basically plays important role in providing manpower to a great extent in a good number to the organization. It may be a large organization or a small organization, internal source is being given first priority. Okay. So here when it comes to internal sources, there are a lot of job postings or bidding approaches which are being followed. Okay. So this plays an important role in internal recruitment of human capital. So job posting was just like the use of bulletin boards and company publications for advertising vacant positions. Okay, internal advertisements will be done by the company for vacant positions. But today, job posting has become an innovative recruitment technique and is considered an integrated component of an effective career management system. Okay, so job posting today is being seen as a integrated procedure for career management system. Okay, so your postings are computerized and are therefore easily accessible to the employees. Okay. So, computer software allows the employees to match an available jobs with their skills and experience, and then highlight where the gap exists so that employees know what is necessary if they wish to be competitive for a given particular job. So you are training your employees, you are making your employees know about the jobs in your organization, you are making your employees know about the requirements of the job in that particular organization, compare their skills with those jobs and see to it that they get trained to be capable of that particular job. Okay. So broadly speaking, internal sources refer to present workforce of an organization. So whenever any job positions falls vacant, someone already working in the organization is upgraded, promoted, transferred, or even demoted. Okay, so these are some because there are certain authors who are of the view that not only the people who are already on the payroll should be included in internal source, but also those who may not be on the payroll of a particular organization but are in the employment of subsidiary or affiliated organizations, as also those who are once on the payroll of a particular organization can be taken into consideration. Okay, so here either you can go for internal who are already there on the payroll of that particular company, or in the payroll of subsidiary, or in the payroll of affiliated organizations. If you find really they are good, then you can go in for identifying them and recruiting them for the vacant positions in your organization. Succession planning, which is ongoing process of systematic identification, that is assessing and developing organization leadership to enhance performance, is also being used as the internal source through which you can go in for filling the positions, vacant positions, right? Succession planning is nothing but planning for the successor of a particular candidate who may be retiring, okay, or may basically who is going to on a deathbed or something like that. So this is being done only for the key jobs. Okay. So advantages of internal sources here. It avoids the problems of people coming in by one door of the organization while highly similar talent leaves by another. Okay. So here it avoids the problem wherein people coming in the organization and whatever existing people are there, they leave the organization. Those problems will not be there because you are giving too much of importance for the people who are already within the organization, right? Then it increases basically the general level of morale of the employees. It increases the level of the employees by assuring them that whenever there is any vacancy they would be given first preference over the outsiders. So this increases the morale of the employees in your organization. It also motivates the present employees to prepare themselves for higher posts, hence their efficiency goes up. Okay, so you are building the efficiency of the employees who are there in the organization and motivating them through this internal source, right? It also promotes loyalty and the sense of belongingness among workers because they feel that their seniority, their merit, their sincerity, and their work will be duly rewarded in appropriate time. Okay, and the present employees are already tried people, okay, because you know already. Always we say that known devil is better than unknown. Okay, so here the employees who are already there in the organization, you know the pros and cons of those people, you know the positive as well as negative aspects of these people, so easily you can mend their ways and easily you can motivate them. Okay, so these are tried and tested people and therefore they are more reliable. Okay, that is one of the advantage of internal source. As well as it reduces rate of labor turnover. People will not leave your organization because you are giving due importance to them. The employer is in a better position to evaluate those presently employed than outside candidates. So you can easily evaluate the present employees rather than outside. Okay, so however the outside employees are already trained and tested. Okay, so therefore they will not be able to evaluate the present employees because they are already trained and tested. Okay, so therefore Yeah, sorry, students. The lights went off, so I had to connect the mobile internet here. Am I audible, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Right. So here, if you could see here, internal sources, I think the employer is in a better position basically to evaluate those presently employed than outside candidates, right? So here you can evaluate the present employees in a better way rather than the outside candidates, right? So efficiency of their productivity can be easily evaluated of the present employees because they are already tried and tested. Now moving on to disadvantages of the internal sources. So, in case the company does not maintain proper record of the progress, achievements, experiences, service, punishments, and so on, internal source basically may degenerate into an undeserved monopoly of those on the payroll. Okay. So if you are totally depending, or maybe you are depending maximum on the internal source, okay. So that time what happens, if the sources, or if the people who are not being recognized properly, or if the achievements are not being recorded properly, or their services, their experience, their qualification, the punishments, if they are not being put forth properly, obviously you will be setting a very wrong example in front of them. Probably, if you go for internal source of supply, you may not be getting the right manpower for that particular jobs. Okay, so that is one of the defect of internal source of supply. That is one of the disadvantage. Okay, second disadvantage when it comes to internal source of supply is screen is not visible. Okay. Okay. So here, when it comes to disadvantages of internal source of supply, first disadvantage is if you do not maintain proper record of progress of your employee services or organization, or when you require large number of manpower. Okay, so that time you have to depend on external source of supply, right? Apart from that, advantage of infusion. Okay, so here advantage of infusion of new blood from outside the organizations are not available. So when you go for internal source of supply, or when you depend more on internal source of supply, the advantage of getting new blood and fresh blood and innovativeness and creativeness in the organization may be lost. Okay, the advantage of infusion, obviously it will be lost. So fourth disadvantages, it has all the disadvantages of inbreeding. Okay, so learner rarely develops ideas which differ widely from those of instructor. Okay, so hence there is little scope of surprising innovations, something like that, because already they are very much like uh, from long time, if they're in the organization, obviously the innovation or the creativeness comes down, right? So that is one of the problem which happens when it comes to disadvantages of internal source of internal source of supply, right? Then as seniority plays an important role in promotions, really capable hands may not be available, right? So capable hands may not be available, right? So capable hands may not be available when you depend too much on internal source of supply. Then personal likes and dislikes. So personal bias may be there. Okay, so personal likes and dislikes of the management play an important role in the selection of the candidates from internal sources. Okay, so thus basically it is obvious that internal source of manpower supply can be more effective if proper record of services of existing employees is maintained, and there is what analytics has gained its importance, right? The software preparing themselves for new assignments. Okay, so however, if we need personal possessing those specifications which are present in the organization, we do not have, we shall look for external source of supply. So the internal sources and external sources are taken into consideration. Any company for that for that matter gives first importance the internal source of supply. In case if you do not have the manpower which has the skills which you are looking out for, or knowledge and experience which you're looking out for, then you can go for external source of supply. Okay, obviously if external source of supply is there, there is an advantage of flash